Berni, welcome to the Legacy Lounge. We are absolutely thrilled to bits that we're going to have this conversation today, that you are a founding member of the Legacy Lounge.
So exciting.
And together we want to create the ripples, right? We want to create the ripples and making it okay to talk about death.
Yep.
And we've got a little friend that comes on tour with us, right?
Will it be this young?
Absolutely.
This gorgeous character. This is Ellie.
And Ellie is significant because, of course, she's opening up the conversation about the elephant in the room.
She is the elephant in the room.
And nobody wants to talk about death, right?
But she's so cute. I'd like to talk about her.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want to give her a little touch?
Exactly.
So, look, we both share a passion that when we lose a loved one, it's about celebrating their life. We appreciate the fact that lots of people will have their own rituals and traditions that are important to them. But you and I are passionate about creating a safe space for people to be able to explore and think about how they might be able to celebrate life in a different way. And I know you've got years of beautiful experience and insight to doing some really quirky and different things with people, but bringing love, tenderness and kindness to that space.
Yeah, I mean, I am lucky enough to be an independent funeral celebrant, which means that I can spend as much time as a family needs with them to create a ceremony, a celebration of the life of their person in a way that authentically reflects their personality and their story, so that when we are going through that ritual, because we do as humans, we need ritual in our life, whatever form that takes for us, a gathering, an informal gathering, a formal gathering, a very structured gathering, whatever it is, we need that in our life to be surrounded by our community and to support each other through moments in our life. So as an independent celebrant, I help I'm a storyteller. You're a storyteller because you're a celebrant as well. So we tell people's stories. We listen to what we are being told. We fill in all the gaps in between where the silences are, because we hear all the nuance and the emotion and the unsaid bits. We instinctively ask questions, and we get to write that story, give it back to that family, and the relief they feel when they know that we have heard and almost like we've met their person.
Yeah.
We get their person.
Yeah.
We get their connection with their person. I mean, you have it, I'm sure, as an independent celebrant, because we spend this amount of time with families. You will deliver a service for them, and people will come and say, so you knew our person then? And I go, I'd never met the person, but I have had the privilege of spending time with family and friends of that person, and now I know that person.
Absolutely.
They're part of me. Yeah. They're a ripple in my world.
Absolutely.
You know?
And it's such a privilege, isn't it? It's such a privilege to be able to take that time to reflect back the life that individual has lived, the impact that they've made on people's lives, be that in whatever way, shape or form that happens.
Well, how we are remembered is our legacy. It's not about the houses and the things that we leave behind. What people carry in their heads and their hearts of us is our authentic legacy.
Absolutely.
So, every time you do something and you think, oh my gosh, my person did that, I've inherited that from my person, or I behave like that because I knew that person, or I know that bit of knowledge because of that person. That is the legacy. That is the story that ripples on through the generations.
Brilliant. So, look, I think I want to get a little bit edgy, okay? Because the way with which people are celebrating life now is changing, and we've moved from more traditional burials and service-led cremations, and direct cremations have become quite a thing. So I'd like to do a little bit of myth busting with you. Yeah. So we hear about direct cremation and we hear about local direct cremation. What's the difference?
Yeah, I mean, everyone will have heard, especially if they're of a certain age and they're sat at home and they're watching daytime TV, you'll see companies like Pure Cremation come on and say, don't be a burden to your family, book yourself a pay for this no fuss thing. And what they're not told at the time is that a direct cremation means an unattended cremation, or so your people, your loved one, your community don't get to come and say goodbye to you. And with these big companies like Pure Cremation, not only do you not get to be there, you don't know when it is, where it is, and where your loved one is, your person is, from the time they die until they are cremated. So what happens with a large company direct cremation is that a van will arrive and your loved one will be collected along with various other people's deceased and taken to a central giant mortuary, which could be anywhere in the country, and you will be there until the time that you fit into a slot at a crematorium, probably near that mortuary. You won't know when that is, and then at some point the ashes of your loved one will come back to you.
Yeah. And for some people,
that's fine.
That's fine, isn't it? Yeah. And we're not here from a Legacy Lounge point of view. We're not here to say that that's right or wrong.
No.
But it's about educating and informing.
I think what you need to do is know the difference and know the choices.
Yeah.
And when a person books one of those and hasn't had a conversation with their family and they don't know that that's what's going to happen, that can be quite shocking. So my role in this is really to say, if you've booked that, that's fine. If that's what you want, that's fine. But do your family know, and what do they need on top of that to ritualize and cope with their loss and start processing it? But most funeral directors, your local funeral director, will have an option to buy a pre-planned package. You can buy a direct cremation package from your local funeral director.
So talk to me about talk to me what a local direct cremation might look like, because for some people, a direct cremation enables them to not have to go through that emotional trauma early doors when they're just getting used to having lost their loved one. It's too soon to be on, for some to be on show, for their grief to be very raw for them still. So a direct cremation can be a really helpful way, because, we have to, whether we like it or not, legally, the body has to be laid to rest within a time frame. So explain to me, how does a local cremation soften what maybe a direct cremation might?
And personally, I'm all for the idea of a direct cremation, because I think that the opportunity for families and communities to say goodbye is, especially where I live, which is in the middle of nowhere, is that you can have the direct cremation happening, but you can have a celebration of that person's life in a more meaningful location at the same time or at a different time. But a local direct cremation means that your local funeral director, who you will have met, will be the person who picks up your loved one from wherever they have died. And they will then go to a local small mortuary. It will be just them being transported. They will be in the local mortuary, probably in your town. My local funeral directors have their own mortuaries, which means there is a chapel of rest, which means that you as a family can visit if you want to. You will know the time that cremation is going to take place, the day, the route that your loved one is going to travel. It will be at a crematorium that is your local crematorium, which means that maybe you can't attend, but you could be there if you wanted to be, to witness your loved one arriving, to say goodbye to them as they're carried in. And the funeral directors will do the whole thing. Just because you're not there, they'll still be suited and booted. Your loved one will go through the front door. Their piece of music will probably be played for them, and then they will go through to their cremation. It's a different thing, and you will know when your ashes are coming back as well. So you're not at home wondering if it's happened and wondering when the ashes are going to come back. It will all be sort of a bit more.
And generations are changing, aren't they? Because people are moving away from perhaps having the traditional burial or a natural burial. So there is a space for us as celebrants then to help people to create a memorial service or what we would have typically known to be a wake, but to do so in some very different ways, right? So that might be down at the beach over a log fire, toasting marshmallows, singing their favourite songs.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about an independent celebrant anyways, we create a ceremony, even within the confines and the time confines of a crematorium or a cemetery, that is personal. But you are time limited. With a celebration of life, a memorial, a remembrance service, whatever you want to call it, it can be anywhere. It can be with or without your loved one present. So if you have got a direct cremation and it's with a local firm, your loved one can be present at the service before they go, so they could come to, I don't know, your favourite hotel, your favourite pub, your home, the golf club, whatever it is. You can start a service with them there. You're surrounded by your family and friends. You can have your celebrant tell some stories. People can write on the coffin, whatever it is you want to do, leave things on the coffin. And then everyone can wave the person off as they're chauffeured away to the crematorium. It's only the same as shutting the curtains and then walking away. But then you are all in the same place together to continue with what you would, with the wake bit, where you are there together, sharing stories. You can have some more structured ceremony as well if you want, and some lighting of candles with your celebrant, whatever you want it to be. But you're already all together. You haven't travelled an hour to a crematorium, sat for your 20 to 40 minute service, all got into separate cars again, travelled an hour back to wherever it is you want to be, separately whilst you're in grief. You're already there together, gathered, having that kind of virtual communal hug with your friends, wherever it is, like you say, the beach, toasting marshmallows, fishing. I did one where we did the celebration of life. We hosted the celebration of life after the cremation, and it was in their garden, which happened to be a farm, and we did it with the four elements. So we lit a bonfire. We floated paper boats and flowers down the river. We lit incense and we planted a tree.
Wow.
And
gorgeous.
It was really beautiful in the garden. And then everyone gathered and had a picnic. Everyone was standing around with their beers because that's what he did.
Yeah.
He was always around his fire pit with beers, and that's what we did for the day.
And so what we're saying is that, the truth of it is at some point we're all going to die. The truth of it is our bodies have to be legally laid to rest. But the way with which we are celebrating life, there are options, and this is a safe space for us to explore that.
Yeah, I think having what I love about the Legacy Lounge and the idea of it is that we start having these conversations and we normalise families talking at the dinner table about death and dying when it's not highly emotive, when someone isn't actually dying, when someone isn't on their deathbed, when there isn't a decision to be made, where the hospital aren't going, this is what's got to happen. So you have time, especially if you engage with you can prepay for your funeral, prepay for your celebrant, meet your celebrant, talk about what you want from your end of life, your funeral wishes, and have those conversations. Look at what the options are in your area beforehand, and build a relationship with your celebrant like you would without. There's just so much more option. I've noticed recently, because a couple of years back there was the pure cremation adverts, and I'm sorry, I'm using pure cremation as the name that comes to mind. There's various firms, so they would have their "Don't be a burden. This is a quick and easy way to do things." I've noticed in their adverts now, it is saying, a lot of them are saying, it frees you up to have a more meaningful celebration of the life of your loved one. When the time is right, at the same time, or in a location that's more appropriate.
I think that's really important, isn't it? We are not saying that pre-paid funeral, we're not saying that a direct cremation is by any way, shape or form the wrong way, but it's really great to hear that those big organisations are recognising that that's one element of the need to celebrate, because when we lose somebody, there is something about surrounding ourselves with others, whether we're going to laugh or cry or shout or scream, but that community, as you've talked about, that ritual, that ability to celebrate their life, because their passing is only a short element of the life that they brought to us.
You memorialise and you honour and you remember your person. I say your person. Your whole life. Well, every time you talk about them, every time you do something that makes you remember them, every time you pick up an object and it reminds you of them, you're honouring them. And you might want to do that as a more structured celebration of life or memorial at the time of the funeral. You might want to do it a few months later, or on a specific and a poignant date, or just because, or connect it with something else.
So we can break some rules, right?
We can break all the rules. There's only 2 rules we can't break. We have to register the death after it's been certified, and we have to dispose of a body in an appropriate way. But everything else can be done however and wherever you want it to happen, and as often as.
Yes.
You don't have to have one goodbye and then that's it. You can have as many moments.
And the way with which we can do that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
There are some of Don's ashes went up in a firework because
wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, he took bombs apart, and it just seemed like a great thing to do. But there are so many different ways that we can do that, and I think you and I could talk for hours about it. And
we could.
This is the start of creating the ripples, right?
Let's talk some more.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
have some more sessions, because it's such a. I think people find it. If you can demystify and take the fear out and the unknown and I don't want to ask that because it sounds insensitive. Knowing what somebody doesn't want is more important than anything.
Absolutely.
Because most people don't really mind. I'm going to die. For me, I don't really mind. But there are certain things I do not want. Certain things I definitely do not want for whatever reason. But I'm not the one who's going to be grieving. There are hopefully other people out there who are going to miss me and they're going to be grieving. What do they need? And what if I've booked a pure cremation, a direct cremation, I don't want them to think they can't do something. I'm just saying, I don't want you to have to go to a crematorium. I want you to do what you need to do. You have permission to do whatever you want, but you need to have that conversation.
Beautiful. And we've started it today, haven't we?
We have.
Started the conversation, and I'm really proud and grateful that you're on the journey with us. So thank you so much, and let's continue to create those ripples of conversation.
Yeah, thank you, my fellow celebrant.
The Legacy Lounge is an initiative that we have created to enable us a safe space to talk about death and legacy planning. It's our intention to educate and inform so that you can be at peace about the legacy that you leave your loved ones, whilst respecting that each and every one of us has our own belief and value system.